Hola a todos y bienvenidos. Welcome back to Real Fast Spanish. Today, you're going to learn all about another essential everyday Spanish verb, ir. Now, specifically, you're going to learn 3 ways this verb can appear in a Spanish sentence and 7 common uses. Hola, soy Andrés. Hi, I'm Andrew. Y estoy aprendiendo español desde hace más de 20 años. And I've been learning Spanish for over 20 years. I've also been running a Spanish school for the last 10 years called Real Fast Spanish, which has helped over 3,000 students work towards their goals of conversational Spanish. Now, this video is part of a series I've been doing on common everyday Spanish verbs, and the main focus of this series is the 3 verb structures you'll come across when studying Spanish. And that's normal verbs, verbs like gustar, and reflexive verbs. Now, many verbs in Spanish, including ir, can appear in all 3 of these structures. And when they do, their meaning often changes. So this means for ir, you might come across voy, me va, or me voy. Now, as I've mentioned in previous videos, I'm not aiming to cover every single possible use of a verb. At Real Fast Spanish, we focus on what's most useful in conversational Spanish. So if a use only pops up in formal texts or literature, I'll leave it out. So with that said, let's start with the normal form, voy. Now, the most common and fundamental meaning of ir in this form is simply to go. For example, I'm going to the market. Voy al mercado. We're going to Spain in summer. Vamos a España en verano. Now, we can also use ir in the phrase ir más a más infinitivo, which means going to do something. Now, I often refer to this phrase as a hack or shortcut for talking about the future in Spanish because we can use this structure without studying the future tense. But it's not really a shortcut or a hack because it is often the most common choice in conversational Spanish. So I would encourage every student to learn and practice this structure before the future tense, not only because it's easier to learn, but also because it's more common and more important in conversational Spanish. So to show you sort of how this structure works, we can say things like, I'm going to practice, voy a practicar. I'm going to visit, voy a visitar. I'm going to see, voy a ver. I'm going to take, voy a llevar, and this goes on and on. So any verb that you know or you can think of, you can put after voy a to talk about something you are planning to do in the future. I'll give you an example with a full sentence. I'm going to study Spanish on Sunday. Voy a estudiar español el domingo. Another example, are you going to talk to Isabel tonight? Vas a hablar con Isabel esta noche. Next, let's look at ir as a verb like gustar, which will come in the form me va. Now, this is a very common use. You'll hear natives use va to talk about how things are going or how things suit you or how things work for you. So, for example, how is it going? ¿Cómo te va? And you could respond to this question by saying, it's going well for me. Me va bien. Another example, when you're making plans with someone, you might want to ask something like, does it work for you to go to the cinema tomorrow? ¿Te va bien ir al cine mañana? And you might want to respond to this question with, yes, that works for me. Sí me va bien. Or no, that doesn't work for me, I have to work. No me va mal, tengo que trabajar. So when something works for you, me va bien. When it doesn't, me va mal. Literally, it goes well to me or it goes poorly to me. Next, let's look at the reflexive form, me voy. Now, like a lot of verbs in this series, when we change from the normal form ir to the reflexive form irse, we have a subtle change in meaning, where irse means to leave or to go away. So for example, I'm leaving now. Me voy ahora. Now note that if we said voy ahora without the me, I would translate this into English as now I'm going to. So you can see it kind of sounds like an incomplete sentence. A Spanish speaker might think, hey, you're going to what? If you say voy ahora, it's like right now you're going to voy al baño, like you're going to the bathroom. Voy a pedir otra bebida, like you're going to order another drink. It's not clear. So if you want to say you are leaving and you don't want to include the destination in the sentence, it's best to say me voy. Another example, we're leaving in 2 minutes. Nos vamos en 2 minutos. Another example, you might want to ask someone, hey, when are they leaving? ¿Cuándo se van? Next, let's look at some idiomatic phrases and expressions with ir. Now, the first is ir de compras, which means to go shopping. So you might want to ask someone, hey, when are you going shopping? ¿Cuándo vas de compras? Next, we have ir de fiesta, which means to go partying. So for example, on Saturday, we went partying with some friends. El sábado fuimos de fiesta con unos amigos. Then we have ir de vacaciones, which means to go on vacation. So you might want to ask someone, hey, you're going on vacation next month, right? Te vas de vacaciones el mes que viene, ¿verdad? And note here, I've used the reflexive form te vas because you're really asking someone, are they going away on vacation? So it's a little bit better if you're asking someone, if they're going away, to use te vas instead of vas de vacaciones. Next, we have ir a pie, to go on foot or to walk. So for example, I don't have a car, I'll go on foot. No tengo coche, voy a pie. All right, now we can also say for modes of transport, ir en coche or ir en tren or ir en avión, to go by car, to go by train, or to go by plane. So in English, we go by. In Spanish, we go in. For example, we're going to Italy by train. Vamos a Italia en tren. All right, so that wraps up this video on ir. Con esto vamos a terminar esta clase sobre el verbo ir. If you'd like to watch the other videos in this series on everyday Spanish verbs, I'll put the playlist up here.